Hey guys, today we're going to be reviewing the week 5 discussion. It was regarding reinforcing your location. This could be your home or bug out location in the event of a disaster. The first 12 tips we're going to look at are for outdoor precautions in case of a natural disaster. And then the second set of 12 tips we'll look at are in case of a man-made disaster, and you'll notice a few differences. So let's start. Okay, outdoor precautions for natural disasters. This particularly is talking about storms and flooding, because in some situations these tips will not apply. So the first one, make sure your house and house number is visible from the street. Number 2, attach roof rafters to the walls with a metal connector. This is just going to help to hold your roof in place and make it a little more sturdy. 3, reinforce glass, windows, and doors. You can use either impact-resistant laminated glass, window and door systems, or you can just simply use plywood and board it up. Number 4, apply permanent shutters and sandbag exteriors for flood prevention. If the cost is not in your reach, instead of putting on permanent shutters, you could also just simply use plywood and manufacture yourself some permanent shutters. You can cut the holes and put carriage bolts through the boards around your window, and just manufacture some type of removable shutter system yourself. That way, if a disaster comes or if a storm's approaching, they're already pre-cut and pre-drilled and everything's ready for you. You just put them up and anchor them onto your to your windows and stuff. So, number 5, reinforce doors with reinforcing bolt kits. I did look up, standard bolt kits are said to not be heavy duty enough to really secure your home, especially in the event of a disaster and high winds. So look up specifically reinforcing bolt kits. Number 6, retrofit garage doors with horizontal bracings. If you don't have the means to do this one, I would simply just use some 2x4s and maybe make your own Katie bars or your own type of horizontal bracings on your garage door. Number 7, clean out your gutters. This is going to allow water to flow freely. It's going to prevent a backup of water to form, and it's going to also prevent more flooding into the interior of your home. Number 8, add waterproof veneer to exterior walls and seal all openings. 9, landscape with plants that resist soil erosion. I thought that this was really interesting because I really hadn't thought of that before. Number 10, trim dead and broken tree limbs. This is going to help in the event of high winds, so the trees aren't just swaying around and getting flung off onto your house, breaking stuff, or harming people, more importantly. Number 11, make a list of everything that needs brought inside and post it in a spot you'll see. This is like your patio furniture, your barbecue. If you have a trampoline outside for the kids, you're going to want to make sure that you do something with it so it's not flopping around in the wind. Number 12, this is primarily for mobile homeowners, obviously. Make sure your straps and tie downs are sturdy. That's really important living in a mobile home, because if you happen to, like we do, you know that every time the wind blows, so does your trailer. So, outdoor precautions for man-made disasters. These are going to be a little more do-it-yourself kind of security, I would say, precautions. But let's go through these and then we'll see what you think. Number 1, make sure your doors are a solid material. I would suggest either steel or wood, and make sure whichever one you pick, you have a steel frame. That's just going to be a little more secure for you, especially those front doors that have glass in them. Although they look pretty, they're very dangerous, and I do not recommend those. Number 2, make sure your doors and windows all have working locks in place. This is in the event that some type of man-made disaster, for instance, that has civil unrest with looting and rioting. You know, if people are trying to get into your home, you want to make sure to lock them out. My husband always says that a lock just keeps an honest man honest. But in the event something was to occur, you're not going to find too many honest men. Number 3, block windows to prevent anyone from seeing light on the inside. I suggested that maybe try to find the darkest tint you can find. Tint your windows from the inside. It's not going to change the appearance of your house on the outside. Nobody's even going to know you have it. They just won't be able to see into your house. We have that here, and if someone was to stand on the porch, and if I was standing on the inside looking out, I could see them perfectly, but they cannot see me. So it also helps with your utility bill, but I like it for security purposes also. Number 4, make sure you have something close by to barricade doors and windows. If you have a large bookshelf or maybe a china cabinet or whatever, if it's near a door and if things get tough, you can always just slide it over or get some help to slide it over and barricade that door with it. You can also build you some Katie bars and have them to barricade the door. Those are very effective. You know, if you use them properly, build them properly, and make sure that you have them screwed into a wall stud. That way, if someone was to try to pull the door open, you know, they're locked in place and they're not gonna fail. The person, unless they're pretty darn strong, they're not going to be able to just pull that Katie bar out of the wall. So, number 5, make sure all fences have working locks. And by the way, I did mention, if you happen to have, not that everybody has it laying around, but if you happen to have some extra barbed wire or can get it for the cheap, use it. If you have a wooden panel fence in your yard, you can run it along the top on the inside, just nail it to it, or maybe you just use a staple gun, just something, and just on the very top, just so the person on the other side of the fence cannot see it though, because when they reach over their hand to the fence to try to brace themselves to get up, you know, they're going to get on that barbed wire, and it's going to help detour them from wanting to go any further. Not that it's going to stop them, but maybe it will. Who knows? Because, you know, they don't know how much more barbed wire is over there or what's going on. So, get cut real good once, and maybe it'll tell them they need to go somewhere else. Number 6. I put note, taller fences help detour looters from jumping them, obviously. Especially if you're short like me. If I see a tall fence, there's no way I'm going to be able to jump over that. Now, if you're very agile, obviously it's not going to stop everybody if they can just pop right over it. But in some cases, you know, the taller the fence, the less they're likely to jump over anyway. Number 7, I highly suggest this for anyone. Walk your property. Be on the lookout for what weaknesses do you see. Try to get in the mindset of, you know, somebody else, and if they were walking through your property, what would be a weakness? You know, can they get in that gate, or could they step on, you know, maybe you have a pile of stuff near a fence. Could they step on that to get over? I mean, just look around for the weaknesses that you see. That's going to help you know what to correct. Number 8, homemade booby traps. Yes, really. Um, I know that some people have smaller yards, and so this really isn't going to be for them. But if you have a large yard or maybe some acreage, like I have a brother-in-law that does, there's only one road into his place. However, coming up the back, there's a lot of woods. So one thing that we plan to do is actually to make homemade booby traps. What I mean by this is like trip lines, maybe homemade alerts. That way if they step on something, something will rattle. But just kind of think outside the box and Google some different ideas. That's what I would suggest, because that's what I would do. And just kind of get your own ideas of what you can do. I have seen some super extreme preppers, I can't remember what they're called, but they were those traps that they were used in Vietnam with the bamboo spikes. And that way if somebody was to trip and fall into them, they would get impaled. I do not suggest using that if you're in a suburban area, obviously. And if you do use more severe type of booby trapping, just please be careful, especially if you have kids, that they're not out playing in the woods and, something happens to them. Anyway, that's just a helpful hint there. But yeah, I mean, you can really incorporate them as long as you use common sense with them. Number 9, my husband suggested this, and I think it's a good idea also. Utilize motion detectors and cameras to watch your perimeter and have solar backup. A lot of people have cameras on their houses and stuff for whatever reasons. But if the grid goes down, you need to have solar backup. That way you're going to be able to watch those cameras. They're going to do you absolutely no good if you're not running on batteries or have solar. So those are pretty good though. And especially those motion lights. Typically, not always, but typically if a thief comes up and one of those pops on, it kind of deters them to leave. So it'll kind of help protect you as well. Number 10, got a guard dog? Well, we do. And I'll tell you, he's pretty vicious actually. If you're not in our immediate family, meaning us or the kids, yeah, he's going to eat your ass. So if you have a guard dog or perhaps could get one, I suggest that you do. Make your dog earn its worth, So make sure he's out there doing his duty. Number 11, have protection. Because if all your other defenses fail, honestly, you're just going to have to take a stand and have protection. If you have a weapon, use your weapon. Make sure you're well trained in shooting and also safety. Make sure you know how to load it, how to put the clip in, and practice. Do this not only in real time, but I would suggest trying to do it with the mindset that it's an emergency and you need to do it. So try to kind of speed up your actions. That way, when something happens, your adrenaline's going to be rushing, and your mind can go a mile a minute. So just make sure you know how to do it all in fluid motions, and that way it becomes second nature to you. Number 12, if hunkering in, be quiet. The reason I said this is you don't want to draw any unnecessary attention to yourself. This obviously is only if you have hordes of people outside milling around for whatever reason, or maybe people, a group of people going by your house. Once you hear them, just remember they can hear you too. So just be quiet. So these are just a few examples, and obviously where you live is going to determine which of these tips you're going to be able to utilize. For instance, this can be particularly difficult if you live in an apartment. So not all of these are obviously going to work based on where you live, but if you can pick out a few or maybe just get ideas from these, That's going to be helpful for you.